let me rephrase that. It's not going to save artisans from having their jobs taken away by AI, but it will enable those who curate more than create. This week, I want to talk about lock-ins. What are lock-ins? It's not the lock into a gym, partying at a high school type of thing. It's something more specific. And the reason why this is important, this term lock-in, is because it is what determines the way we do things, the way we think. If anyone has ever experienced the video game series Mass Effect, you'll know that in that future, in that franchise's setting, the sci-fi setting, a lot of the technology that was developed in those various alien societies was based on the technology of the Reapers, the big bads of the entire franchise. And what's very powerful about being stuck towards developing along the path given by these malevolent or ultimate beings is that people become so enamored, society becomes so enamored with this advanced technology trying to achieve a level of understanding that we cannot think differently from it. We've developed our technology along the paths given or inspired by a future or a larger, more advanced civilization. Similarly, if you recall the movie Terminator 2, when Miles Dyson got a hold of the chip from the original Terminator and even the arm that was left over from the damaged Terminator endoskeleton, he was developing along the paths that constituted the Terminator machines that ultimately led to Skynet. And so those influences are called lock-ins. When we lock in ourselves to a particular train of thought and we don't think otherwise. Now, it came, aside from those examples, whether it's Terminator 2 or Mass Effect, I discovered the term or understood the term from Jaron Lanier or Lanier's book, You Are Not A Gadget. Very fascinating book, very insightful. Jaron, for those that don't know, is one of the pioneers, originators of virtual reality in the 80s and has since become talented in many different things, but is known as a speaker, a technologist, and a philosopher on all things tech. And he is one of the advocates for you to get off of social media, given its influences. And he talks a little bit about the influences of social media in here as well. But one thing that I want to extrapolate from this book is his coverage of the term lock-in. And one of the things that he pinpoints in the book is how he compares lock-ins to the scientific method. Now, the difference between the scientific method and the lock-in, approach of a lock-in, is that a scientific method, through its discoveries, through its process, it empirically takes away certain ideas because it's proving that certain things are more advancing of truth. For instance, scientific method will deter the notion of a flat earth because there are proofs, there are systems, there are experiments that prove that the earth isn't flat. Now, a lock-in, let me give you the Wiktionary definition for a lock-in. Within the field of law, a lock-in is defined as a situation in which members of an industry have agreed to adopt a certain standard and have retooled their production to meet this standard, thus making it very costly to change to a different standard. Now, that is understandable when you're trying to create a production pipeline. That's why you'll notice that if you're in business, you'll oftentimes evolve your business according to the trials and tribulations which manifest a process unique to your business. If you try to replicate another business, it's possible that it could work, but many times, especially if you have a team of people that help create the business, you won't successfully replicate that advised or consulted standard. This is one of the reasons why I am not an advocate for leveraging consultants to basically, redo your business, because consultants have a more detached relationship to your business, and at the end of the day, the business is held accountable for whatever they end up choosing to do, and oftentimes it falls on the egos of the business people, the stakeholders involved, of how much they'll absorb from the consultant. That's why you'll have consultancies like Accenture or McKinsey who are well respected, and you pay billions upon millions or billions of dollars just to consult with them. But many times, from people from the ground level who have experienced the influence of McKinsey or Accenture or any of the other massive consultancies, they don't have a great time learning really things that would help their business completely. You're only meant to take on a few things that they understand, because if you fail from taking their advice, who's going to win in the end? McKinsey, Accenture, all those consultancies will learn from your failure and adjust accordingly, but the business itself is falling apart. Many people have lost their jobs trying to make the McKinsey or the whatever consultancies work. And that's why you need to be very careful about how much you try to follow a certain approach, a certain paradigm of things, a lock-in. You cannot displace your accountability to someone else's plan, someone else's paradigm. It's better to really do things for yourself and learn for yourself. It's good to get guidance, but recognize that they're guidance, not a rule. If there is anything to learn from leadership books, is that much of the insight in which you will ever need in your life will come from within yourself, will come from within your nature, will come from your background. Because as you build your own history, you will have your own unique insights. It's just a matter of how confident you are. And so going back to lock-ins, is that even if we are locked into place, even though we are stuck with our TikToks, Facebooks, social media tools, whichever, we shouldn't feel limited by what is given to us. We should really take into account what we can do to better enable our own confidence, enable our own intelligence, and use tools to be tools, not as a means of us just being lazy and letting tools dictate our reality. We are still in possession of our own will, our own choice. And even though it may seem such a huge world on our back like Atlas, it's a lot easier than what it may feel like. And I'm not saying just drop the dopamine hits that you get from social media. What I am suggesting is, if you ever had a chance to understand what life was like before these digital devices were put before us, recognize and appreciate those freedoms for what they were before. Or at least if you're newly discovering the freedom without digital devices, recognize that it's still not going to go away, that there are needs for us to use digital devices, but not let it enslave us, not let it diminish our own intelligence. For instance, the entire advent, the entire rise of AI. A lot of people are like, oh, this is a new tool. I can do less. I can do more. I can do so many different things without putting too much effort on relying on anyone else. However, this ease of access, this accessibility to greater opportunities and options, it should not rob us of the ability to do things for ourselves and not feel like everything's going to be automated. Because yes, AI will automate a lot of things for us, but it's becoming too apparent that it's going to make us incredibly complacent, lazy from doing things for ourselves. Being able to really have a sense of taste, have a sense of, knowing what quality is. I'm not saying that, it's going to save people from having to be recognized. Let me rephrase that. It's not going to save artisans from having their jobs taken away by AI, but it will enable those who curate more than create to recognize what better quality is. If anything, it is an enabler of refinement. And those artisans who strive for that level of individuality and refinement, they will still be relied upon for the way they do things. And they themselves may end up being the greater curators of the future. So that part aside from AI, lock-ins, the way society has agreed to do certain things, should not limit you from exploring alternative ideas that may help evolve your work, your life, and your relationships. Because one of the things that we need to challenge is when people say that's the way it's always been done, this unquestionable zombie-like approach to life. The more cognizant we are of our life, the more we recognize our own lock-ins, our prescribed way of doing things, the stronger we have to finding happiness, to finding value, to finding greater survivability, and if you would like, greater notice. Because at the end of the day, going back to leadership books, they always say, go back to your history, go back to yourself. Empowering how you personally do things, finding your way through the world, is far stronger than following someone else's path. So any thoughts you may have on this topic, let me know in the comments below. Aside from that, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.